I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I love the idea of this meeting. AI for Good is just a fantastic topic. Although I guess when I think of it, I would focus on the good part, not the AI part. I remember my colleague Pat Winston said that AI is like the raisins in raisin bread. And by that he meant raisin bread is mostly just bread. That's the core stuff. And then the raisins are sprinkled in to make it more exciting. And I think when we look at problem solving for good, AI can be a component to that, as can any of the appropriate tools. And we should think about what tools are appropriate, and sometimes that is going to be AI, and that's very important, and we've heard some great ideas here. But sometimes AI is not the biggest part of the problem. Sometimes it's a truck or a shovel or a fleet of satellites. At Google, we've done some work with trying to cover the planet, and for the first time, take a picture of every spot on the planet every day. And we were able to achieve that. We sold off our assets to a company called Planet Inc. And so we can now get a picture of everything, and this is very important for things like monitoring how crops are growing, for disaster relief, and so on. And mostly it's a communication satellite issue, but there's a little bit of AI there because there's low resolution and high resolution images, and you have to decide exactly where we're going to spend these resources for what high resolution pictures are important to take next. And there's an AI planning problem to do that. And when we can do that, we can help the farmers, we can help prevent famine, and so on. And AI plays a small role in everything that's done there. Another example, my colleague Eric Brewer did a project on treating blindness in Africa. And what it was going out to the villages with nurses that could triage various diseases that people had. And some could be treated right there, and some had to be sent to the hospital to work. And there was a technical component of figuring out remote imaging and communications to be able to make a link between the remote villages and the hospital in the city, and there's some very technical work about how that was done. If this was done again today, perhaps you could throw in some machine learning image processing to look at the eye disease. But the important part was making the trek out to the village, and the high-tech communication was less important. And another big part of it was understanding the culture, saying, yes, I can come here and people want to be cured, but you have to forge a partnership with them. In particular, one of the issues was for some people you say, well, if you go into the city and go to the hospital, we can do an operation, your sight will be restored. But it might be a 3, 4, 5-day walk to the hospital, and people were not going. They said, I don't believe you that that's going to happen, and I'm not going to take that trip. And so they came up with a very clever low-tech solution, which was they handed out a little certificate that said, if you show up at the hospital, you will get an operation. And if you hand that certificate in, you get the operation. If you don't have the certificate, you still get the operation just as well. But it was building trust was the key point here, and that little certificate was part of the trust. And the relation between the people was part of it as well. And the high-tech part was a small part of the solution. So once you understand the problem, once you've built this trust, once you have that level of understanding, then I think one of the keys is communication and dissemination of information. And AI certainly plays an important role there. Stuart touched on it in terms of education and being able to do one-on-one tutoring and do that well, and that's certainly a goal that we've all been working for, and I've done some work on that. I hope we can achieve that and make progress on it, but there's other things that are easier as well, of just having the bare minimum of knowledge and being able to spread that and communicate it. So you don't have to be able to say, here's a complete diagnosis for how to treat disease. Sometimes it's important to say, hey, when you're doing this, it would be good to wash your hands and make sure that everybody knows that. So the basics are often more important than the high-tech machine learning. And in terms of the communication and dissemination, there are teams to help out with that. We've done some work with the Google for Nonprofits of making all that available so that information can get out there. And that's true from the organizations to the customers they work with, and it's also true within the organization, that if we solve a problem, if we have the best practices, then we shouldn't have to solve that over and over again. And certainly we need to be able to apply it to specific situations. Every situation is going to be different. But we should have some repository of resources and best practices and some information retrieval and machine learning capabilities to be able to access those resources. And I think an important role can be played in building that repository, in funding and supporting the creation of the repository, and funding and supporting the individual organizations and the individual people that go out there to be able to solve these problems. Stuart recommended World Economic Forum, and that might be a great forum for it, and there could be others as well. So there's lots of problems out there. AI can be one of many tools, but I don't want to place AI above the shovel, the truck, and all the other important tools that we have at our disposal. So let's use it appropriately where we can. And I think with that, we can start to do good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. And we are very glad that you have not abandoned your fixed line phone. As more and more people get rid of their fixed line, we're very happy today that you didn't do that. Also, I just wanted to pick up on your point about the repository. We've heard that from the session that just reported back. That's something that has come up throughout the week about the importance of sharing experiences, best practices, and not reinventing the wheel. And that repository suggestion has been made by others. As we do have you on the line and we can hear you, we were going to open up for questions afterwards, but perhaps I could pause here and ask colleagues, maybe we could take 2 questions, and then we'll let Peter go. So Peter, if you would agree to stay with us for a minute, I could take perhaps 2
Great.
questions from the room.
Thank you very much for these excellent presentations. My name is Barbara Bultz, Global Development Impact. I am very excited about the potential of AI. However, I haven't heard much about how AI can be used to foster collaborations between various stakeholder groups to truly solve the problems. We know we have the solution, financing is there, technology is there. The key challenge is that we do not really collaborate the way we could. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Barbara, perhaps I could take 1 more question, and then we'll turn back to Peter. Anyone else have a question? Gentleman in the back, please go ahead. State your name, please.
My name is François Tadei. I come from Paris. My question would be, you said we need other tools to solve the problems. I would say we'd probably also need other intelligence. So, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence, but, how can we optimize the combination of human and artificial intelligence, of individuals and collectives?
Okay. Peter, can we turn back to you for those 2 questions?
Great. So the first question about collaboration and what role can AI play there. Again, I think AI plays a minor role in terms of collaboration, and I think the most important part is, one, you need some level of tools of being able to create materials, whether it's written or spoken or video or whatever, and have those available. And then you got to get them out to the right people at the right time, and you have to make the right connections of one-on-one to have people talk to each other and work with each other. Once those connections are made, it seems like AI is out of the loop. So the role for AI may be in finding the connections of saying, here's someone, here's what their interests are, here's another person, and here's their interests, and we have a lot of experience in AI in doing that kind of collaborative filtering and recommendations and so on. And so we could apply that to the problem of collaboration, saying it would be good for you two guys to collaborate. But once we've done that, now I think it's a personal one-on-one problem and not an AI problem. And it'd be best for AI to get out of the way. And once people are connected, let them handle the collaboration themselves. Second question was around the combination of human and artificial intelligence and working together. I think that's a great area, and we've seen a lot of work on that in terms of being clever about figuring out what data do you want to collect, what human usage do you want to make of that data. So we've done a lot of work in terms of things like language understanding, speech understanding, and machine translation. And when we go for a new language, most of the work is in this figuring out how we want to take advantage of the humans and have that interact with the artificial intelligence. So we go into a new country or a new area, find native speakers of the language, have them say some words, have them have a dialogue with them, and get sort of just the key pieces of information that we need from them. And it's a lot of work behind the scenes for the AI to figure out what are the important questions to ask, and how can we best make use of this resource that we have, of this human resource. And so that's an area that's been studied a lot. And I think being able to take advantage of that partnership of human collected data and human labeled data, and then raw data, and use active learning to intelligently figure out what the right mix of those is, that's going to play an important role.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much.